Committee will come to order. This hearing is fully virtual, so we need to address a few housekeeping matters. First, for today's meeting, the chair or chair's staff designated by the chair may mute participants' microphones when they are not under recognition for the purposes of eliminating inadvertent background noise. Second, members are responsible for muting and unmuting themselves. If I notice when you are recognized that you have not unmuted yourself, I will ask you if you would like the staff to unmute you. If you indicate approval by nodding, staff will unmute your microphone. Third, you will notice a clock on your screen that will show how much of the 5-minute clock is remaining. If there is a technology issue, we will move to the next member until the issue is resolved, and you will retain the balance of your time. Fourth, we will begin with the chair and ranking member, then members present at the time the hearing is called to order will be recognized in order of seniority. Finally, House rules require me to remind you that we have set up an email address to which members can send anything they wish to be submitted in writing at any of our hearings. The email address has been provided in advance to your staff. Today, we are conducting 3 panels. First, the Library of Congress, then the Government Publishing Office, and finally, the Architect of the Capitol. We will take a 10-minute recess between Library of Congress and GPO panels. However, we will remain on this video feed so members do not have to log off. The Architect of the Capitol hearing is scheduled for 2 p.m. today, and we will reconvene at that time. I would like to welcome the Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden, to present the fiscal year 2023 budget request for the Library of Congress. Dr. Hayden, it's always a pleasure to hear from you and your team. I see them behind you. So at the beginning of your testimony, please introduce your colleagues who will be joining you today. I would like to thank each of you for the extraordinary work you and your teams do for Congress and your devoted patrons. I also would like to thank Sarah Bullock, Mary Klutz, and the budget team and the CRS staff for all their work during the fiscal year 2022 appropriations process. The staff can be relied on at all hours, and we appreciate that. Since its founding, the Library of Congress, the largest library in the world, continues to engage, inspire, and inform millions of patrons. Over the past few years, the library has made significant strides in the areas of modernizing essential technology and optimizing operations to facilitate easier and robust access to its collections for Congress and the public. These collections are invaluable. They teach us of things past and the possibilities of things to come. Currently, resources for the Library of Congress are 13.4% of the entire legislative branch budget, totaling a little over $794 million in appropriated funds in fiscal year 2022. For fiscal year 2023, the library has requested $824.9 million. This updated request is $7.2 million less than the amount cited in the president's budget, and an increase of 3.9% or $30.9 million over the fiscal year 2022 enacted total. Dr. Hayden, I look forward to your testimony. I hope you can expand on the library's 10 new initiatives totaling $24 million that aim to increase your investments in IT, ensure the safety of the library's $170 million worth of collections, and provide the best visitor experience. At this point, I would like to yield to my colleague and friend from the Pacific Northwest, the ranking member, Jamie Herrera Butler, for any opening comments that she would like to make. Ms. Herrera Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it is great to see you, Dr. Hayden, and your team from the library for being here. I was laughing to myself because these are all the books I have checked out from the library. I have not read them all, but they are right where I can see them when I wake up so that I read them all. So thank you. You fulfill such an important role for all of us. Chairman Ryan went through kind of the budget request already. And I think that, so I'm not going to rehash those numbers, but your request also asked for additional resources for new or expanded programs in technology innovation, financial infrastructure optimization, You're going to have to move. Expanded engagement with visitors to the library and strengthening data and analysis expertise. And we talked a little bit about some of this earlier. As the largest library in the world, the Library of Congress receives some 15,000 items each working day and adds more than 10,000 items to its collection. Among its responsibilities, the library provides Congress with objective research to inform the legislative process and administers the national copyright system. It is great to see your doors back open. We talked a little bit about this for visitors and researchers, and your program opportunities being done online as well for those of us who have constituents a little bit further away than the DC metro area. So I look forward to your testimony today. And with that, Chairman Ryan, I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera Butler. One of your children is out of order. I just want to, I may bang the gavel.
Free to at home, Chair. Free to at home.
Dr. Hayden, at the beginning of your testimony, please remember to introduce any of your colleagues who will be joining you during your presentation today. Without objection, your written testimony will be made part of the record. Mr. Halpern, please summarize your statements for the members of the committee. Once you have finished your statement, we will move to the question and answer. Please begin. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Ryan. Ranking Member Herrera Butler and members of the subcommittee, we appreciate this opportunity to give testimony in support of the library's fiscal 2023 budget. And I am joined by my colleagues, starting to my left, Shira Perlmutter, who is the Register of Copyrights. Next, Mr. Mark Sweeney, our Principal Deputy Librarian. To my right, far end, Mary Mazanek, who is the head of the Congressional Research Service. And immediately to my right is Judith Conklin, who is our head of OCIO, our Chief Information Technology Officer. And 2 years ago, the library did have to close its doors as the pandemic began, and we moved quickly and successfully to adopt new and innovative approaches to serving Congress and the American people virtually under unprecedented conditions. In fact, the pandemic accelerated our ongoing efforts to engage the public virtually and share our collections and services in a new and exciting ways that allowed us to reach more people across the nation. So thanks to the dedication and innovation of our workforce during the past year, critical mission efforts were able to proceed, including the Congressional Research Service and the United States Copyright Office. They were able to operate largely as normal. We also were able to produce a full year of virtual programming, including our National Book Festival, and we continue to work for the unveiling of the visitor experience that will begin in 2023. I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Congress for the support of the library's priority needs, including our Library Collections Access Platform, LCAP, the replacing our outdated security systems, and all of the things that are allowing us to operate virtually. So I come before you today to discuss the library's fiscal 2023 appropriations request, and it is an increase over the previous year. Program investments that are necessary for us to continue to meet our mission. With the new and modern IT infrastructure in place, thanks to your support, we are now using continuous innovation and delivery to ensure that we're constantly optimizing and modernizing the technology we use. The cloud has become an important part of our IT planning, and the fiscal 2023 request seeks to establish a dedicated cloud management program that will enable us to integrate the cloud solutions into our traditional IT infrastructure while supporting all of our business needs. The Congressional Research Service needs to adapt and optimize its information system, IRIS. Also, the library seeks funding to stabilize our financial infrastructure that is essential to all of our operations. That includes increased funding for the hosting of the legislative branch management system, financial management system that supports 8 legislative branch agencies. Also, this request this year is funding for phase 2 of enterprise planning and management for the library's cost center of excellence. This will modernize and optimize our payroll operations. Many of them are now in a manual state. The Copyright Office seeks to expand its data analysis capacities in economic research and fee analysis so that they can have better information about their decisions with fees. And as we prepare to unveil the visitor experience, we are requesting additional funds for visitor engagement staff. And the library expects a significant increase in visitors in the next 3 to 5 years. So in closing, the library's 2023 justification includes strategically placed modernization efforts, and with the support of Congress, will continue to strengthen our institutional capacity to carry out our mission. Look forward to answering any of your questions or concerns.
All right, we're good. Thank you, Dr. Hayden. We're now start with the standard 5 minutes rounds alternating, and I will begin. I know how valuable the 170 million collections are, and we appreciate you and your team's vigilance in trying to keep them safe. I know you mentioned the cyber threat, particularly coming from nation states, have recently targeted federal IT systems, which is a deep concern to us. They're using very sophisticated and ever-changing cyber attack techniques. For example, beginning in as early as January 19, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service compromised several federal agency networks after hacking the SolarWinds network management software used by those agencies. And we continue to be warned that a particular foreign government is exploring options for potential cyber attacks against the U.S. in light of this significant threat. I know you talked a little bit about the investments. If you could talk a little bit about that, more detail, also the challenges that the library faces in preventing these cyber attacks, what this committee can do to help you address those challenges, and will this address your request here? Will this address the remaining recommendations? And if so, when do you expect to fully address those recommendations?
Chairman, you're certainly correct that our assets and our collections are very valuable, and we have a duty to protect them. And IT security, as we invest more in our IT throughout the library, is a top priority for the library. And we've strengthened our defenses in the past few years, and our CIO, Judith Conklin, is considered, and we're very fortunate, a cybersecurity guru. And she has emphasized cybersecurity in all of our efforts. And I think she can tell you much more accurately about what we are doing at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. Well, we know the library is a constant target, as evidenced by the nearly 200,000 attempted cyber attacks a year, including many from the advanced nation state actors and the one you spoke about. With the committee support, we have invested smartly in cybersecurity over the last few years, and our IT security team is officially on high alert over what is happening right now. We are working to meet 3 strategic IT security objectives: IT centralization, stabilization, and optimization. And the centralization is we have all of our security team within our IT centralized environment in OCIO. IT security enhancement for high value assets, meaning we identify our highest assets and we treat them differently. We secure them in a more, we secure them more, and we integrate IT security in all of our library IT modernization projects. So it's embedded within development processes. We've made great progress on all three fronts. In addition, like DoD and other government agencies, we're implementing Zero Trust, and that's a network architecture to protect congressional and other high value data. We're closely coordinating our cybersecurity efforts with our partners in the other legislative branch agencies. That includes the CIOs, TOC, within the legislative branch, and the Chief Information Security Officers. We also are receiving intelligence from the broader cybersecurity community, which we use to strengthen our cybersecurity tools. And we are able to adapt quickly as we are alerted to those threats. Our main challenge is that we can never rest on these accomplishments we've already made. The threats are constantly evolving, and we must adapt in real time to thwart them. That means we're continually having to invest in the latest cybersecurity tools and expertise to ensure that we keep the library and Congress protected. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Quickly, Dr. Hayden, I'm going to take a little bit of liberties and overrun here just because I want to get this question in, and then we'll go to Mr. Rare Butler, because we've had so many conversations over the last few years when I was both the ranking member and now chair of the committee around the visitor experience. If you could just give us a couple elements of that. One, what's the status of it? Two, who are the private sector partners that are continuing to come in? I know you mentioned that last time that we talked. And also, given the fact that the architect of the Capitol is involved with the construction, how's the project coming? And if you can give us a little update about that and the relationship with the architect.
Well, I'm very excited in your support of the project, and the project is on track. And we are seeing results in the design phase, and we are actually moving into the construction phase. The three elements of the visitor experience, which is enhancing how people in person interact with the collections and the staff at the Thomas Jefferson Building, include a treasures gallery. First time the library has had a treasures gallery. It is on schedule to open in late 2023. The Youth Center for the Young and the Young at Heart is scheduled to open in the spring of 2024. And the Orientation Gallery and Welcome Center is scheduled to open in the fall of 2025. The fundraising is going well, and we're also meeting our schedule on that. We have major support from our philanthropic group, the Madison Council, led by Mr. David Rubenstein, who has definitely taken the lead in making sure that we meet our $20 million private fundraising goal. We have 15.7 pledges in hand and 5 million actually cash in hand right now. We've been working closely from the very beginning, even in the planning stages, the initial planning stages on the project, with the architect of the Capitol. And there is a schedule of regular meetings with them. And in fact, I have been in contact with the architect very recently to make sure that we are working together on any cost estimates. And as we go forward, we're about 50% in design right now. And so we are working with the architect of the Capitol staff and all levels to make sure that we keep our progress going, and I'm smiling because we just received, and I hope that the committee was able to receive an audit of the project that was just released yesterday. And it was from the Inspector General, and it acknowledges that, and I'll just have to quote, that the project is on schedule and within budget. The cost estimates are reasonable, current, and updated, and the library is on target to raise the private funds as pledged. So we're very excited that things are moving along.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Ms. Herrera Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And wow, it's so great to hear on time and under budget. That's so
far.
rare. It's wonderful. Congratulations. I wanted to switch over to a project that I know you're aware of with regard to COVID. So the House passed HR 4738, and it's called the COVID-19 American History Project Act. And it was very broadly supported. And it was by Representative Julia Letlow from Louisiana. And her story is obviously unique. She is the widow of Congressman-elect Luke Letlow. So he was the 41-year-old newly elected representative from Louisiana who tragically died of COVID before he was actually sworn in. So the bill directs the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress to establish a history project to collect and make publicly available individual stories and records records of experience during the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. And it also authorizes you to solicit and accept donations to carry out the project. Obviously, there are a lot of unique stories that need to be told. And one of the things I'm reminded of is your oral history project with regard to veterans, it's just priceless. And I think this has that same potential. Has the library initiated any planning for the potential of the project or explored any funding options to implement the project?
Well, thank you for that question, because the American Folklife Center is the most appropriate place within the library to capture the stories and the histories of people who were affected by COVID-19. And we have started to investigate the resources that would be needed. And we were pleased that the projected legislation would allow the library to solicit and accept donations to carry it out, because we want to make sure that it receives the same excellence in programming that the Veterans History Project has, and we would continue that. So we would need additional resources, and we're preparing what that would entail. And so we also, though, wanted to make sure that there's an awareness that we are ready. We are already collecting materials about the COVID-19 experiences. We started immediately to have rapid response collections available for the public and, of course, Congress. We've joined with other cultural institutions to make sure that, for instance, there are photographs that are being collected. We have artists who are responding to the pandemic. We're mapping the spread of the pandemic with data shots and all of these types of things with bulk data from Johns Hopkins. And we're archiving pandemic-related websites. So there are a lot of efforts throughout the library, even commissioning new works of music from composers in response to it. So we are looking forward to having more of an opportunity to just outline what that type of project would be and how it could work in the library and the resources that are needed.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. Thank you for that. Switching gears to the public meetings, the Congress asked the library to convene a public meeting at least once a year for 2 years to discuss input from the library's legislative information services. And the library held these meetings, and by all accounts, they were a huge success. But obviously, there's no requirement to do future meetings. And I just wanted maybe for you to share a little bit your assessment on the meetings, whether they were worthwhile, and is your opinion on the 2 reports being submitted to Appropriations Committee regarding the meetings a good idea? And do you have plans to hold more?
We definitely have plans to continue. The 2 meetings were very successful. We were able to actually incorporate some of the suggestions that were talked about during those meetings. We did note, though, at the second meeting, there was a marked decrease in the attendance, about 50%. And so we're looking at ways that we could engage the public even more. And we know that possibly people were tired of looking at things virtually. So we really want to make sure that the attendance in the next one is scheduled in the fall. It will be coming up in the fall, that we find more ways. And so we'll be watching that attendance with the meetings. Very helpful. We would definitely want to continue.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Hayden. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Ms. Herrera Butler. Next is the distinguished gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Chairman Ryan. And really wonderful to have you with us, Dr. Hayden, as always. And I'd like to begin by thanking you and the Library of Congress specifically for correcting its catalog entry on the Armenian genocide to recognize that that was, in fact, a genocide. And I stood in solidarity with Armenian Americans in my district to commemorate the 107th anniversary of this atrocity just 3 days ago. And I cannot tell you how important it is that the world's largest library is now a proactive partner in promoting the truth about the 1.5 million Armenian lives lost in the early 20th century. So we're deeply grateful to you for that work. I am interested in learning more about the library's physical storage and preservation capacity. I know the Library of Congress continues to expand its digitization efforts, but the number of digitized items represents just a small fraction of your overall collection. Can you give us a sense to what extent your current storage and preservation capacity meets your goals of expanding collections over the next few years? And what challenges are you experiencing in this area that this committee could be of help with?
Thank you so much for that question, because the library is actually at a critical point in our storage efforts. We have our feet basically in both worlds. We're collecting and seeking out collections in physical that require physical storage. And we also are very aware that there will be the need to increase our capacity for born digital materials that are coming at the same time. But the physical storage needs are pressing and I think the committee is aware of the reprogramming for a module in Fort Meade, where we have our main physical storage, and we are really in need of making sure that that continues. And our principal deputy librarian, Mark Sweeney, in fact, was one of the main architects of that program. And I would like him to give you more of a sense of why that is so critical to us, that physical storage.
That'd be great. If he could also address how the development of Module 7 is going as well.
Thank you very much. Preservation storage for the library is one of our most significant challenges at this time. As you know, the library has a 25-year plan for the building of 13 storage modules at Fort Meade. These are special modules in the sense that they are climate controlled and extend the life of a wide variety of collections. At this point right now, we have 6 modules that have been built and where collections are being stored. Module 7 was approved for funding in fiscal 21 to the architect of the Capitol. As a result of security concerns, that money was used for other purposes. The downside on that for the library is that if we don't have funding for that, we'll effectively run out of space at Fort Meade for collections beginning in fiscal 25. And the timeline to build storage module is about 18 months. Fortunately, the architect of the Capitol has done a good job of planning for that module. There should be just a very limited refresh of the design so we can move very quickly to construction. Actually, the site has even been prepped. Site work has been done. So it's shovel ready and desperately needed by the library for our growing collections.
Thank you so much. In my remaining minute here, I did want to just go back to something the ranking member mentioned, which is the Veterans History Project. Dr. Hayden, I wonder, we had talked about the inability to accept digital submissions. I wonder if you can give me an update on any progress on developing the digital submission portal so veterans do not have to submit their histories by paper or DVD.
We have made progress in that regard, and we are in development with OCIO to make sure that we can.
Mr. Chairman, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I cannot hear Dr. Hayden.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden very difficult.
Dr. Hayden, is your microphone on?
It is.
Okay,
I
maybe if
moved-
you could
now
maybe
I've
pull
moved it
your
closer.
microphone a little
Is
bit
it
closer.
better? Judith, will you be able
Can you
to-
pull your microphone a little bit closer?
They're adjusting it right now. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, our team is working on it right now.
Okay.
And
Oh,
Judith
there you go.
could
All
give an
right.
update.
There we
if
go.
you heard
Hey,
better, and
Dr. Hayden, take your time and
Okay.
answer Art's question.
This is an example of our Crackerjack IT team that is with me today, and they're able to make adjustments on the spot. And we've had, as you can imagine, a lot of experience with that recently. And the Veterans History Project, we've been able to do as much as we can to make sure that the latest technology is available to veterans so that they and their families can submit their stories. And so we've been able to do programming with, in fact, 63 members of Congress in the last year, and specializing in rural areas and giving workshops virtually. So the submission and being able to have veterans submit digitally is of utmost importance for us. And Judith might be able to give more of the technological aspect of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
For Veterans History, we do have an investment in it, and we have follow project management principles to ensure it gets completed. I will tell you that I am a veteran, and I have submitted my oral history several years ago, but it's an exciting project for the Library of Congress, and we will definitely succeed in this project.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Clark, the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Washington. Mr. Newhouse.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you for being with us today, Dr. Hayden. I appreciate that. Also, thank you for an opportunity to visit prior to the hearing so that we could talk in detail about some of your budget requests. I appreciated that time. I just have a couple of areas that I wanted to ask you about. The first is the mass deacidification program that you are engaged in. It's, I think, been ongoing for at least 20 years with a 30-year plan. Could you give us a little update on that, on the progress of that? And a couple things I would like you to cover if you could. Are you anticipating it could take longer than the 30-year timeline that we have? So at this point, also, the budget request has a $2.5 million number to deacidify, that's a hard word to say, the books that you've classified as high value. Or is that what they are for? And could you give me an example of the types of high value texts that you're in the process of deacidifying?
Well, I want to start by thanking the committee for supporting the library in its preservation rebalancing efforts. We mentioned some of the challenges coming up with the born digital materials that will be added to our collections and the need for physical storage. So we appreciate that. And the program, our Mark Sweeney was involved, in fact, in that program and how that was established. It could give you more of an update on where we are. It was, he's been with the library 35 years. So he was there at the inception.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. You're correct that in the very beginning of this program back in the late 1990s, it was envisioned that it would be a 30-year program. However, the library has been reducing the quantity in which needs treatment over the last several years. In fact, Congress in the fiscal 21 budget approved the retirement of this program with a 2-year funding of $2.5 million, which we are on track to execute and to be able to wrap up the program at the end of this fiscal year.
Oh.
The items that we're currently treating are relatively low in number and definitely low in priority. Materials are primarily in our music monograph collection at this point. And we've swept through all of the high priority subject areas in our general collections, as well as a considerable number of manuscripts from our manuscript collection. So we are fully on target to retire this program at the end of fiscal 22, and will not be asking for additional resources for that program going forward. We feel that we can best meet the most pressing preservation needs of our collection with our new preservation strategy, which balances our resources between both our physical and our digital collections here at the library.
Good, awesome, that's great. Thank you. And then just one other thing, Dr. Hayden, and we talked a little bit about this in our meeting prior to the hearing. If I'm reading correctly, your budget request, there's approximately 6 new FTEs funded. Could you, I know they're for several different responsibilities, could you tell me, are those new positions for the library, or are there some of those that maybe filling positions that because of the pandemic opened up, people were either let go or left, and you need to bring the numbers back up to where they were?
And Congressman, you're correct, approximately, definitely 59 FTEs, and they're cover the 10 major initiatives the program increases. And that includes additional staff that we're adding on. I mentioned the visitor experience. We're adding staff to start engaging, to think about visitor engagement for the new visitors that are coming in. That personnel and payroll processing, that some of those items are in manual state. There are 2 FTEs that are going to be working on that new system. And for instance, the cloud program office that we're establishing, those are new positions that will be dedicated to our cloud, our project management and our IT management, and those are also new positions. So what you see, and copyright office, for instance, cost estimators, and Shira could elaborate on that. Those are new positions as well. So these positions will add to the expertise of our staff members that we currently have.
Okay, well, thank you. That's good information to have, and I hope that's helpful to us to make the decisions we need to. So thank you for that. And just my last point, Mr. Chairman, I hope those library books that Mr. Rare Butler has are not overdue.
We may need an audit.
Thank you, sir. I'll yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. The distinguished gentleman from Hawaii, Mr. Case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Hayden, good to see you again. Just a quick, real basic question here. I'm looking at your testimony. The Library of Congress's FY 2023 budget request is for $871.8 million, 3.9% increase over your FY 2022 enacted. And then you go on to say this request includes $30.8 million in mandatory pay and price level increases. And if I'm doing all of that math, that indicates that virtually all of your 3.9% increase is in mandatory pay and price level increases. Do I have that right, or am I missing something?
With the mandatory pay-related costs, that's 21.49 million. There's a price level increase of 9.27 million. And that includes offsetting collection authority. And then you add in the FTEs.
Okay, but there, I guess my point being, your mandatory pay and price level increases are virtually all of your 90% plus of your actual requested increase over FY 2022. Is that right? There's not a whole bunch left over if you take your 30.8 million of pay and price level increases to get to 3.9%.
Yes.
Okay. And so when we're talking about things like, cybersecurity, I guess my question is, there's not a whole bunch of extra money being asked for in the cybersecurity area, or for that matter, any other area, right?
The increase, we just talked about the specialized staffing that is going to be required for instance, the cloud program office, different areas in the library. So you're looking at the cost of having staff and the mandatory increases for existing staff. For cybersecurity, I'm going to have Judith give you more on that, but and
how much additional are you asking for cybersecurity? I'm just following up on the chair's questions along these lines because I agree with its importance. How much extra is over to cybersecurity?
When you look at, and I'm turning to Judith now with how cybersecurity, the types of things that are IT related in our increases. Judith,
Yes.
how much would you estimate of the OCIO program increases? That's the cloud, the cost estimating, how much of that would you think?
So it's definitely built into the cloud request that we have, the cloud program office. And it is also into our base in this year. So we did have an increase in FY 22 from the agency to fund IT security, additional IT security needs. And IT security is built into everything we do. So as we get increases and in our base funding, IT security is built into that.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that your basic cybersecurity initiatives were built already into the FY 2022 enacted, plus some personnel and price increases that are part of your 3.9% increase. So you are, in other words, many of your cybersecurity initiatives are already in FY 2022. There's not a huge new amount, and you feel that you're sufficient in terms of the trajectory you're on right now with some adjustments just for, personnel and normal price increases, mandatory, right?
Yes, that is correct. And we have been fortunate that we've had support from the committee for previous years' increases for IT security. And as I said in a previous answer, depending on threats and changing IT security environment, or I like to call them bad actors, in the future, we might need in future years past FY '23, but for FY '23, we
Okay,
did not.
yeah, because you've made the point in spades to this subcommittee, and we've agreed with you that cybersecurity is critical. And I think we're just trying to make sure that you have done what you need to do, and you're making the requests that you need to make to keep yourself on improved cybersecurity track. So thank you very much. I yield back.
And if I may, we can provide more details for the record, specifically on the cybersecurity
Thank you.
costs.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. Thank you, Mr. Case. The distinguished gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Dr. Hayden, good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to chat most recently last week. I have a few issues, but they're not directly relative to the budget hearing, Mr. Chairman. So Dr. Hayden, I'll look forward to talking with you soon. And I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Amade. The distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Espaillat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Hayden, for being with us again, and services you provide through the Library of Congress. Dr. Hayden, your budget calls for a $51 million funding stream for the Fort Meade storage site. How will this funding support the library's immediate and long-term storage and preservation needs?
The Fort Meade module, as Mark Sweeney really elaborated on, is critical to making sure that we have the capacity to continue to add to our collections. We just had, in fact, a very generous donation of a significant person, the creator, Neil Simon, that is going to be really pivotal for us in being able to show the creative process. And we have more collections that are being either sought or potentially coming to us. So we're going to have a need in the next 20 to 50 years. We have the capacity physically to accept that, and Mark can give more on that.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. Yes, collection storage is always a critical issue for the Library of Congress, especially now for the Module 7, which obviously is at least 18 months behind now as a result of the change in funding. That new storage module would hold the equivalent of 4 million book volumes. Right now, the library has at least 1 million volumes that are improperly stored here on Capitol Hill, either on the floor or in triple shelving. And of course, the collections continue to grow. We do that as a necessity. We are storing through copyright a significant volume of daily production, as well as the signature type special collections that Dr. Hayden just mentioned. So in order for us to achieve our mission, the collections continue to grow, and collection storage, high quality collection storage is critical to the library.
And I have to add, as a librarian, this is almost, it's heart-wrenching to think that we would have to turn away collections, and especially for the nation's library, because we don't have the proper storage or the capacity. So thank you for asking that.
I also recognize that in fiscal year 2021, $41.5 million, I think it was enacted for the construction at Fort Meade within the architect of the Capitol's budget. However, circumstances now require that funding be repurposed for the support of urgent Capitol Hill campus security needs following the events of January 6th. What other library projects were impacted due to the January 6th events?
Well, definitely the reprogramming of the funding that we were ready to go in design of that module was a very significant impact on the library, because the timing now with constructing that module is getting even more critical for us. There were other aspects that the event on January 6th brought up was our need, and we were very pleased and grateful for the support for improved cellular service. That became very apparent, and we had support from the U.S. Capitol Police and the architect of the Capitol to request that we have improved cellular service in that Thomas Jefferson building in particular, as well as our other buildings, and also to update our security systems, the actual devices, the cameras and all of those things. So those, it brought it into stark relief how we have to update those systems that support security and observation in our buildings and communication.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayden, and your team for all the work that you do at the Library of Congress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Espaillat. Appreciate all the committee members here, and Dr. Hayden, thank you for your discussion here today. As always, we're going to continue, and this committee will continue to support the Library of Congress. You are invaluable to this institution, you know, and we all believe that it's our duty to protect the collections and give a good quality experience to the American taxpayers. So we are going to continue to support you on that. We appreciate all your good work. We appreciate your very sophisticated and diligent team that you have with you, and surrounded yourself with some great people that can help us protect this institution for generations to come. So we appreciate you being here. Before we adjourn this panel, I just want to remind all members of the committee, we are going to do the government publishing office in 10 minutes. Please do not log off. We're going to continue to use the same line for the next panel. So we'll just adjourn here for about 10 minutes and we'll be right back. And again, Dr. Hayden, thank you for your fantastic leadership. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hearing is adjourned.